Welcome back, everyone. It's the Bourbon Judge. We are back at it, ready to dive into a very interesting topic for today. So, actually, kind of go back. I reached out to my patrons not too long ago, just saying, hey, me and my patrons, we go back and forth quite often. And we were like, I said, hey, give me some ideas of different things that you want to see on the channel, regardless if it's certain whiskey reviews, just topics, whatever it might be. So one of my good buddies, my good friend Quad Espresso, was like, Judge, how do you handle whiskeys that you just don't like? I mean, you bought it, maybe a friend told you to buy it, you grab a bottle, you try it, and you just don't like it, right? It just doesn't align with your palate. You've waited a little bit, it opened up a little bit longer, and you still just do not care for that pour. So I got a lot of great ideas, but Quad, this is a good one. So we're going to dive into that. I'm going to give you a couple of different ideas of how to handle whiskeys that you just don't align with. Cool? All right. So kind of going back, one of my buddies in my local bourbon group, I'm not going to say who, I will hold off on saying his name. He was like, Judge, you need to try this new rye whiskey, or at that point in time, a new rye whiskey called Whipsaw. It's a rye whiskey. It's really good. It's, very clean on the palate. So I was like, oh man, I got this idea. I'm going to go buy this whiskey. It wasn't that bad. I think it was like 45, 50 bucks. I got it, popped it. I'm like, this is not good for me. I don't know. I let it open up for a little bit. Still wasn't good for me. Just didn't align with my palate, right? So I got home. It just didn't work. So I was like, what can I do to try to hopefully make this bottle useful? Cool? All right. And because it's been a while since I've had this, I'm going to go ahead and try it one last time just to make sure. And then I'll give you a couple of different ideas. All right, here we go. Woo, this one's been sitting on the bottom of the shelf, and every time I crack it, I keep telling myself, Judge, it just doesn't align with your palate. But here we go. We'll try it again. Cheers. Oh. 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 Woo. Yeah, that one doesn't work for me. All right. So we'll give you a couple different ideas. So the first idea, and I would say this honestly, regardless of proof, a lot of times, sometimes a whiskey might just need, in my personal opinion, a drop of water. Take a good drop of water. If you can, obviously, the best thing, of course, obviously, is to get some Kentucky limestone water, which is what this is here. But if you can't, just get like natural, really good spring water. Put it just add a little drop in. Sometimes a drop of water will truly open up a whiskey. It really will. It'll change it, sometimes completely. Sometimes it might not change it at all. But we're going to go ahead and try it now, because I've actually not done this with this one as well. So I got my little dropper here. Add a drop or two in. Let's do a couple drops. It's 1, 2. Let's do a couple more. Just a couple. All it takes is a couple. There we go. So the proof on this one, by the way, is 90 proof. So I added in just a couple of drops of water just to see whether or not will the water actually change the whiskey. I'm hoping it does. Sometimes it does. I've had actually a good number of pours that when you add in just a couple of drops of water, like 3 to 5 drops of water, it'll change the entire experience, and it makes a bottle go from just being to being absolutely amazing. So we're gonna see. So this is item number 1. Add in a couple drops of water, and let's see if the experience gets a little bit better. We shall see. Still, it's a little funky. So this whiskey itself, this rye whiskey, it has a certain little aftertaste that's very much like a almost like a soapy taste to it. And it's not the glass, because I've had this on numerous occasions, as you can tell. It's not the glass. Clean the glasses very well. It's not any of the glasses I use. It's definitely the whiskey. It has a very a soapy kind of aftertaste. So even after adding a couple drops of water, still didn't improve. That's option number 1. Option number 2, which there's nothing wrong with this. I like whiskey neat all day or with a couple drops of water. But option 2, grab some ice. Pour the whiskey over the rocks. It might improve the experience. Again, you might want to add a little bit more. Obviously, I just added what I had left over here. But truly, you can add a lot more whiskey, put it over the rocks, and hopefully that, additional water over the rocks let it sit for a little bit period of time, and that might honestly be the game changer to help you to go from the whiskey is just so-so to a better experience. That's honestly what I've done in a couple different occasions. That has worked not as often as like adding just a drop or two of water. That's typically the best, but this is a really good go-to option as well. So you might be wondering, Judge, all right, I added a drop of water, still didn't work. I poured the rest of my whiskey over some rocks, over ice. It's decent, but it's still not enjoyable. What are my other options? So the other options, you got a couple more now. It's not over. Third option. Before we get to the third option though, real quick, 3 quick easy favors. Number 1, hit the like button. Number 2, drop me a comment. Let me know, what are your thoughts? What do you do when you have a bad bourbon or rye that just doesn't align with your palate? And last but not least, please make sure you also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you get notification each and every time I release new content. Cool? Cool. All right. The third option. So if you poured it over some rocks, over some ice, still not jiving well with you, it's not working. At this point, options are getting limited. You may want to make a cocktail. Pour that bottle of whiskey over a soda. Make a nice little soda bourbon kind of mix, which a lot of people do, or even just make a mixed drink. Grab these are obviously some cherries. You grab some bitters. Make yourself a Manhattan, an old fashioned, whatever. Right? Typically, and I should say typically, when you're taking a whiskey that just doesn't align with your palate, maybe it has like a certain aftertaste, maybe it's not in this case here for this one because it's only 90 proof, but for other people as well, if you have something that's like a higher proof point, 120, 130, if you're making it into a mixed drink, that might honestly work in many occasions, right? Because you're adding in a whole bunch of different things such as like bitters and sugar and cherries in this case, and simple syrup and so forth. So depending on which bourbon mixed drink you're making, you typically will kind of get some value out of that whiskey, right? That's at the most part. Folks, we are at the end of the road. So you've exhausted all possibilities. You've used a drop of water. That didn't work. You've used some rocks, some ice. That didn't work. You even tried to make a mixed drink out of it, right? Either soda or making an old-fashioned or a Manhattan or any other mixed drink that works well with bourbon or rye whiskey. And that didn't work. Just something about the whiskey just didn't work. What is your last option? Your last option is to go to your sink, take your bottle, and pour that bad boy right into the drain because it is just flat out garbage, which is where this is going, right down the sink. It's absolutely horrible. Hey folks, until the next time, peace, cheers, and most important, salute. Take care. See you guys.